Here we go. Happy madness. But before I get to whether Cooper Flagg is going to be better than Larry Bird, seriously better than Larry Bird, and why March Madness once again is driving me crazy mad, and before I ask, whatever happened to the Pittsburgh Steelers I used to know and fear? And before I warn Laker Nation about Luka's one fatal flaw that will be fatal in the postseason, I'm about to unleash about the most under-respected team in NBA history, the team that's having the greatest season in NBA history right before your very closed eyes. Nobody outside of Oklahoma City cares about what's happening in Oklahoma City with the Thunder, especially Draymond Green, who recently said this on his podcast, and I'm about to quote him verbatim. There's a certain seriousness that it takes to win in this league, and there's a certain fear you have to instill in teams in order to win. I just don't know if they're instilling that fear in teams, referring, of course, to my Oklahoma City Thunder. Hey, Draymond, get your salt and pepper ready, because the Thunder are soon going to make you eat every one of those words. Every last word you uttered about them, you will eat. They're going to remember what you said. I'm going to remember what you said, because these Thunder are as for real as you can get. This team is about to strike fear in your heart, Draymond Green, and give you heartburn all the way through the postseason. And yeah, you're right out there in viewer land. I am from Oklahoma City. I was born and raised. Never could have imagined we'd even have an NBA team back in the days. I used to go watch minor league hockey as our only pro team in town. Yet, I'm sorry, I just never could quite get my arm around the 2012 Thunder that did make it to the NBA Finals, because KD and Russ and Harden were just so difficult to love. And they really never seemed to love playing together at all, which is why they really never won anything together. This Thunder team is so different. It is so lovable. It is so much closer and tighter than any team in the NCAA tournament going on right now. This team is having more fun dominating together than any student athlete squad in March Madness. These, as I've said on this show, are the Oklahoma City University Thunder. Man, I started covering the NBA back in 1977 out here in Los Angeles, started covering the Lakers for the LA Times, and I have never, ever seen anything like these Oklahoma City Thunder when it comes to real, live love and trust on both ends of the court. Never seen anything like it, nor has this league. Sunday night, I watched every dribble of the Thunder at the Clippers. Now, I don't know if you've been paying attention, but the Clippers are now completely healthy, including Kawhi. They have peaked. Kawhi is just cooking. Ben Simmons is having an impact. The Clippers were starting to look like the second best team in the West. And by the way, the Thunder on Sunday night were without Chet Holmgren and their other all-star, without Jalen Williams. So without their second and third best players on Sunday night at the Clippers. And the Thunder won 103-101. The Thunder won with the runaway MVP SGAs and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander going 7 for 29 and 1 of 7 from 3. The Thunder won because they're by far the NBA's deepest team, and because, well, they just now expect to win every close game, and they win almost all of them. The Oklahoma City Thunder are now 59-12. They lead the West. The West is best. They lead the West by 13 and a half games with 11 to go. The Celtics won the East last season, or the least, by 14 games. And that was the largest margin between 1 and 2 seeds in almost 50 years. Think about that. Last year's East wasn't nearly as deep and talented as this year's West. Yet the Celtics, of course, went on to win the NBA Finals in 5 games. And still, the Thunder are right now slight favorites to meet and beat the Celtics in the finals, in small part because they've already beaten the Celtics twice this year, by 13 in Oklahoma City and by 6 at Boston. Think about that. Now, are you ready for this? The Oklahoma City Thunder are now on pace to break the all-time record for outscoring opponents. That would eclipse the 1971 Bucks of Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. And by the way, the all-time top 5 teams in this stat win a combined 71-12 in the postseason and all won championships. And I don't know, I guess Draymond is belly laughing at this monumental achievement by those unserious Oklahoma City Thunder. Please, I want you to think about what I'm telling you. I dare you to tell me I'm wrong about what all this means. SGA is easily the best player in the league because he's leading the league in scoring. And think about this. He's number 1 in the league in individual defensive win shares. That is Jordan-esque. Seriously, Jordan-esque. SGA is shooting 37% from 3, which is pretty good. Yet, more important, he's 90% from the free throw line. Made 2 clutch ones to hold off the Clippers. He leads the league in drives to the basket. He takes a lot of punishment. I'm not going to run. Which is why he's second now to Giannis in free throw attempts, which is pretty amazing for a 6'5" guard. But he's shooting 90%. I love the math on that. Second in attempts, shooting 90%. MVP, 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 run away. Yet, I don't know. Nobody's afraid of Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. That's what Draymond says. I don't know why not. Maybe because he doesn't talk trash. He doesn't cheap shot anybody the way Draymond does, the all-time dirtiest player in the history of the league. Is it because SGA is just a really nice guy who, by the way, down the stretch of games is looking more and more like a cold-blooded assassin? Are you watching, Draymond? So is it possible the Thunder are a little too dependent on SGA to score in big playoff games, especially with him taking his time to rest on the bench? It's a fair argument. But I would argue back that, A, if you double team SGA, if you triple team SGA, trust me on this, you still can't keep him from the basket. The Clips kept double teaming him and he would just dribble right through it, power right up through it. And then B, the Thunder do now have a second all-star that I think you can trust in the postseason. And C, they now have so many fearlessly clutch bucket getters, bucket makers, from Chet to Aaron Wiggins. You've been checking out Aaron Wiggins, to Isaiah Joe bombing from 3, to Lou Dort 3 and D, to that other Jalen Williams, the one from Arkansas, to Cason Wallace. God, can he play defense? To Alex Caruso, who made the 2 biggest hoops late against the Clippers to win the game. Picked him up via trade from Chicago, of course, for Josh Giddey. And they also signed Isaiah Hartenstein, physical, high motor 7-footer who can also pass the basketball. He does so much of the dirty work that Chet just wasn't able to do last year by himself, especially on the boards. But here's the bigger point. The Thunder are just so hard to score against because they play so hard and so smart and take so much pride in playing defense together. They are easily the NBA's best defensive team, and they are on pace to creating the largest gap in NBA history between the first and second rated defenses in the league. Are you listening? Are you still laughing, Draymond? By the way, this is all being accomplished while Chet Holmgren, one of the NBA's most intimidating shot blockers and shot changers, Chet's missed 47 games this year without Chet. This is impossibly incredible. Wouldn't you agree, Draymond? Oh, that's right. You think Chet's just another wimpy stiff, right? We'll see. You, Draymond, are making a case that you should be Defensive Player of the Year now that Wemby has gone down and out. So I think you, Draymond, would at least have an ounce of respect for the greatest defensive team in NBA history, statistically the greatest, Draymond Green. The Thunder lead the NBA in steals and deflections and loose ball recoveries and charges taken, and nobody outside of Oklahoma City seems to notice or care. You ready for this? The Thunder lead the NBA in scoring off opponents' turnovers. And, just as important, they lead the NBA in allowing the fewest points scored off their turnovers. Do the math. Greatest ever. Is anyone out there comprehending what I'm telling you? Would you believe the Thunder have already beaten the reigning champ Celtics? I'm going to say it one more time. By 13 in Oklahoma City and by 6 in Boston, and nobody noticed. Nobody could tell you that except people in Oklahoma City. Would you believe, Draymond Green, that the Oklahoma City Thunder are having the greatest season in NBA history? I mean, ever in history. The facts scream for themselves. I'm not making any of this up. I'm not exaggerating or embellishing or engaging in 1 ounce of hyperbole. Greatest ever. I am dropping truth bombs all over Draymond Green's disrespect. Boom, 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 boom. But okay, he's right about one thing. None of this will matter unless the Thunder back it all up in the postseason. Close the deal. Who knows? Maybe they'll have to deal with the Warriors in the playoffs. Maybe they'll have to deal with the Warriors in the first round. I don't know. It could shake out that way. And maybe if that happens, Draymond's teammates will be telling him in private, why'd you have to say that about the Thunder? Maybe if we do see Thunder versus Warriors, deep down, Draymond Green will be scared to death. Sip of the breakfast of champions. The nectar of the gods, Diet Mountain Dew. Okay. My madness bracket is already pretty busted. Yep, I've been a pool fool already, but I did pick Duke to win it all because Duke has by far the best player in this tournament. Duke has the ACC Player of the Year as well as the ACC Freshman of the Year. And Duke has now the heavy favorite to be National Player of the Year. I planted my flag early with Cooper Flagg. So now 2 games in, 2 blowouts that made me feel real good about picking Duke. I'm already trying to figure out if we're watching the greatest white American player since Larry Joe Bird. Heck, I must admit, I'm already asking, probably unfairly, if Cooper Flagg could be better than Larry Bird. I seriously doubt he can be or will be, but he's so good so early. I must admit, I'm not ruling that out, not yet. Please keep this in perspective. Cooper Flagg didn't turn 18 until December 21st, so he's just about 3 months into his 18th year on this planet. Larry Bird played all 4 years of college basketball, the last 3 at little tiny Indiana State, the Sycamores. So the world didn't really know about Larry Joe Bird until he lifted the little Sycamores into the Final Four in 1979 and wound up playing Magic in the championship game that put both the NBA and the Final Four on the national, if not international, map. Larry Bird, you might remember, first signed with Indiana, but he just couldn't stand Bobby Knight. I get it. I completely understand that. But Bird was just able to dominate inferior competition at Indiana State for 3 long off-radar years. Larry Bird led the nation in scoring by averaging 33, then 30, then 29. And on the boards, he averaged 13 and 12 and 15 rebounds for little Indiana State. Larry Bird was a great below-the-rim rebounder. Proved that in pro basketball. He's country strong, genius basketball IQ. Also averaged almost 3 steals a game in college. That'll work, along with 5 assists. But once he ran into Magic in the championship game and ran into another NBA-bound player in Gregory Kelser for Michigan State, Larry Bird in that game was held to 19 points on 7 of 21 shooting. Did have 13 rebounds, but only 2 assists, and Magic did what he always did. He won the championship pretty easily. So this year in 20 ACC games, Cooper Flagg averaged 21.2 points a game, 7.1 rebounds, and 4.4 assists. Pretty good for 17 going into 18 years of age. But this kid shot 44% from 3. Sensational. Bird didn't even have a 3-point line in college. But here's the thing that's starting to hit home to me about Cooper Flagg as I watch him more and more. He appears to be just as driven to win as Bird always was, but Cooper Flagg is not driven to star or to stat. Seriously, no exaggeration. The only numbers that Cooper Flagg seems to really care about are in the final score. I did read something on ESPN.com the other day that referred to Cooper Flagg's unrelenting unselfishness, as cliched as that sounds. But it's true. And that unrelenting unselfishness, for me, can turn into maddening unselfishness, disturbing and frustrating unselfishness that drove me pretty crazy in Sunday's second-round game against Baylor. I kept saying to my TV, or maybe yelling at my TV, just attack. They can't stop you. Cooper Flagg had 15 points at half on just 5 shots. Wound up with 18 total points for the game, but he did lead his team in rebounds with 9 and assists with 6. And of course, I had to keep reminding myself that Cooper Flagg was just doing only what his team needed him to do, which wasn't all that much in this game. And he's barely 18. He's playing with a bunch of McDonald's All-Americans trying to keep everybody happy as kind of the point forward for that team. He's not playing with a bunch of Indiana State sycamores, Indiana State nobodies. Remember, he announced his presence, did Cooper Flagg, in that scrimmage against our Olympic team before it left for Paris. Remember in Las Vegas? He just took over a scrimmage against LeBron and KD and company, and Steph, just took it over down the stretch. And all of a sudden, we're all on high alert for Cooper Flagg, 17 years of age. Larry Bird got to play in the shadows all the way until really the championship game at the Final Four. He beat Mark Aguirre's DePaul in the semifinal. I was there. I watched it. I was in awe. But that was the first time I'd really seen him up close and personal. And now Cooper Flagg has been in the nation's spotlight really since that scrimmage against our Olympic team. He's been in the crosshairs. He's been on the hot seat. And yet, I have rarely seen an 18-year-old, especially an 18-year-old star, play so hard every single possession, especially on defense, where Cooper Flagg is turning into an extremely effective shot blocker, rim protector, because he's such a quick leaper, pew, 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 quick second leaper with such high IQ instincts and timing. No, he doesn't have quite Bird's basketball genius, quite Bird's passing vision. Yet he is as tall as Bird, 6 feet 9 inches tall. And this kid, Cooper Flagg, can jump out of the gym. Bird couldn't jump a lick, or maybe I should say a French lick, as in where he's from in Indiana. Not a lick. Cooper Flagg reminds me of a longtime friend of mine, a great white player before Bird, named Rick Barry. Maybe you know of him, maybe you don't. Rick Barry led college basketball in scoring. He led the ABA in scoring. He led the NBA in scoring. I think he averaged 33 a game in NBA finals. Did help lead the Warriors to a championship. Rick was a 6'7" gazelle running the floor. Could he ever move? So athletic, so supremely skilled. But listen, Cooper Flagg is obviously far more athletic than Larry Bird ever thought about being. Bird was, of course, an all-time great shooter. I believe Cooper Flagg can turn into an all-time great NBA shooter. The form, the mechanics, the touch, the feel. Cooper Flagg is going to shoot a whole lot of NBA opponents right in the heart. He'll obviously be the first overall pick. And I did see another quote on ESPN.com the other day from a Western Conference executive who said Cooper Flagg is, and I quote, as NBA ready as any of the number one guys in the past 10 drafts. No doubt about that. But here's what I can't know yet. Does Cooper Flagg have the clutch gene? Does he have it? You're born with it or you're not. No, don't get me started on that. I won't go there today. Larry Bird was a bad you-know-what, a cold-blooded basketball killer right up there with Jordan and Magic, a nasty trash talker who just flat out tell a defender what he was about to do to him and then just do it to him. So you might remember early this season, back on November the 12th, when Cooper Flagg was still 17, Duke played Kentucky, national TV, big stage game. Superpower versus superpower. Cooper Flagg turned it over 3 times in the final minute and 41 of a close game. But worse, with the game tied and 12 seconds left, Cooper Flagg slipped and fell, trying to dribble, drive the basketball, turnover. Then with 5 seconds left, down 2, Cooper Flagg slipped and fell, trying to dribble, drive the basketball. Turnover, ball game. Then on November 26th, against then number one ranked Kansas. I know they fell on their faces, but they were ranked number one at this point. Cooper Flagg had 5 turnovers, including one with 48 seconds left, and Duke down 1, and Duke lost. But Cooper Flagg was still 17 years of age, playing big national TV games for Duke, not for Indiana State. And after that, Duke was so dominant, it didn't really have another close game. So I don't know about Clutch Gene. But I just have a feeling when push comes to shove, Cooper Flagg will figure a way to just will the ball into the basket. Stakes highest, will the ball into the basket. That's what I sense from him. Just a gut feeling. He does have that in him. He's got that look in his eye. Cooper Flagg has already proven to me that he's the best white American player since Bird. But now we get to see if he can rise a little higher against Arizona, then maybe against Alabama and against Houston, and if my pick holds true, against Auburn in the national championship game. I will be all eyes. We haven't seen anything like Cooper Flagg in the 30-plus years since Larry Bird retired. Whew. A toast to you, Cooper Flagg, at 18. All right. If you're wild about March Madness, maybe you shouldn't watch or listen to this. I don't want to poop the party, or maybe poop on the party in this case. I watch March Madness like crazy. It feels like I watch every game, but I don't love it. I must admit to you, I don't love it, and I'm about to tell you the truth about it. I'll be the first to admit I am no good at picking NCAA tournament games, especially these early rounds, because the truth is nobody is any good at picking these early rounds. If they tell you they are lying. Or this year, they've just been crazy lucky. This year, I even resorted to using the latest hot stat, wins above bubble. I don't know if you call it WAB or WAB. It did me little to no good. Probably did me in a couple of cases. I've missed 12 games in the first 2 rounds. And hey, silly me, I watch a whole lot of college basketball during the regular season. I have a pretty good feel for college basketball. Yet, as I always say, the more you know, the worse you'll do in the early rounds of this tournament. How many pools have I been in that were won by somebody who made picks because they liked one mascot over the other mascot, or because their uncle's cousin's best friend went to McNeese for a semester, maybe? I mean, yes, McNeese State had the better coach in Will Wade and the better social media phenomenon in Amir Khan. And I guess I should have known that they had a kid coming off the bench named Sincere Parker. What a great name. He hit 2 big threes against Clemson. Heck, I'm sure some Cowboy fans picked McNeese just because they call themselves the Cowboys. That's their nickname. But there was no way in heaven or hell I was picking the McNeese Cowboys over the Clemson Tigers. I just couldn't. Clemson ranked 12th in the country in wins above bubble. McNeese ranked 58th. 12th versus 58th, and I'm going to pick McNeese? I have no idea why McNeese beat Clemson. Yet another dreaded 5-12 upset. Maybe because the Tigers, kids playing for the Tigers, had read so much about 5s losing to 12s over history that they just half expected to lose and stressed themselves into losing, maybe almost manifested in their own psyches. Who knows? And who really cares? But the madness nuts, the pool partiers, and the oh whoa are we gamblers were oohing and awing about the upset of the day for the rest of that day. Can you believe McNeese beat Clemson? Well, yes, I can. It happens year after year after year in this sudden death tournament when you throw a bunch of kids into the national TV cauldron against another bunch of kids in some strange place, in this case, Providence, Rhode Island, with strange refs, strange shooting backgrounds, and strange pockets of fans in the arena. And just, I don't know, madness happens. Upsets happen that aren't really upsets. They're just random madness between two teams that probably won't have a single guy make it in the NBA and that are actually more evenly matched than you might have first thought. That's madness. So the first couple of rounds are just wild roller coaster rides for the easily amused. Wee! It's like the little piggy going all the way home in the Geico ad. Wee, 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 wee. I don't want to wee-wee on your parade here, but it actually reminds me of New Year's Eve, which is amateur night for partying. The hardcores just stay away. I'm more of an NBA guy than a college guy. I'll admit it. And that gets driven home to me, especially during March. I'm always reminded of a show I used to watch way back when I was a kid called House Party. And one segment on the show was called Kids Say the Darndest Things. And the host, Art Linklater, used to interview kids who almost always said the damnedest things, which led to several spin-off shows that you probably are more aware of. Same name, same concept. Well, that's March Madness. Kids do the darndest things. Make the darndest buzzer beaters, such as Maryland's Derek Queen against Colorado State. I was watching that on Sunday night. And by the way, thank you, Derek. I got that one right. Pure luck. I did not get St. John's right. Yep, I lost the 2 seed I picked to make it to the Final Four. That was in Saturday's second round, when Calipari beat Pitino in the Battle of Legends, who don't really like each other. As I've always said about those two, Pitino is the better coach. Calipari is the better recruiter, the more lovable people person, far more fun to play for. So I should have known. I should have known that Pitino would apply far too much pressure on his superior team to uphold his honor and his legacy against Calipari's Arkansas. A 10 seed. We got to take care of business. I know St. John's couldn't shoot threes during the regular season. I should have known that, but they could score and they could really play defense. But I should have known that Pitino would be so angered and so personally offended by the performance of his 2 best players against Arkansas, against Calipari, that Rick Pitino would bench them both, just out of spite. I should have known. Kadari Richmond in the first half benched, and R.J. Lewis in the second half benched. R.J., the Big East Player of the Year, wound up going 3 for 17. Who knew? Who could predict? While Richmond, after Pitino had predicted to CBS that Richmond would have a big game in this big moment, he wound up with a grand total of 5 points. Pitino's demanding aura, his extreme uptightness just choked the life out of his team. While Coach Cal's Razorbacks just played so free and so easy and just had a blast beating the heck out of St. John's, doing it for their coach against that coach. Pitino was the better coach with the better team, and he overcoached his team into oblivion. 2 for 22 from 3. That's March badness, which equals March Madness. But hey, I'll be watching like mad, and you can book it. Duke will beat Auburn by 2 in the championship game. You heard it here first. Even though Auburn had the number 1 wins above bubble in the country and Duke was only 5th in that stat, I went with my gut. Actually, my cousin's aunt's grandfather knew somebody who I think lived near Duke. That's why I picked Duke. I have one NFL question today. Whatever happened to the Pittsburgh Steelers I used to know and fear? Whatever happened to the Steelers of the 1970s? They beat my Cowboys twice in Super Bowls. Terry Bradshaw outplayed Roger Staubach twice. Those Steelers made it to 4 Super Bowls, 4 victories. Heck, whatever happened to the Steelers of Big Ben Roethlisberger? 3 Super Bowls, 2 victories, black and gold. Wow. Big Ben last made a Pro Bowl in 2017. And the NFL cornerstone Pittsburgh Steelers haven't won a playoff game now in 8 seasons. They're 0-5 in that stretch. In that stretch, meaning they've missed the playoffs 3 times in that stretch. That's because Mike Tomlin, who I still have high regard and respect for, Mike Tomlin hasn't had a quarterback since Roethlisberger hit the wall. The Pittsburgh Steelers, the mighty Steelers, haven't really had a plan at the most important position in sports since Big Ben hit the wall. So Mike Tomlin has had Kenny Pickett, and he's had Mason Rudolph. He's even had Mitch Trubisky. Then last year he had, of course, Justin Fields and Russell Wilson. One just isn't accurate enough. He's now a Jet, and the other has just hit the wall, and he's not with any team yet. And now the mighty Steelers are so desperate for a quarterback, they're crawling, they're groveling for Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers hit the wall in Green Bay. That's right. After Aaron Rodgers failed in 2 straight home playoff games, then finally stunk it up in a playoff for the playoff game at home against Detroit, which wasn't really Detroit just yet. After all that, 3 straight failures in 3 years, Green Bay said no to Aaron Rodgers. And now the Jets have said no to Aaron Rodgers. And now the Minnesota Vikings have said no to Aaron Rodgers. And it sounds like the mighty Steelers are all but begging a washed-up Aaron Rodgers to come save them. And you know what? I can't really blame them. I guess I'd rather hope against hope that Aaron could rekindle a little of that old MVP magic than go with Mason Rudolph again. Yeah, I guess I'd probably hope that Aaron found the fountain of youth in ayahuasca rather than, I don't know, hoping Jackson Dart falls to 21 in the first round of the draft where Pittsburgh now sits. Maybe watching Jackson Dart turn into the next Kenny Pickett. It's got potential. No, I can't blame the Steelers for groveling, crawling for Aaron Rodgers, but I can feel sorry for him. How did the Rooney family let it come to this? Okay, I'm going on record with a warning to Laker Nation. Luka Doncic has one fatal flaw that will prove to be fatal to the Lakers in the playoffs. Luka shoots way, way, way too many threes. He's got a lot of LeBron in him. Nobody can score in the lane better than Luka. Nobody can score at the rim better than LeBron. Yet they're both infatuated with launching threes. LeBron's backed it off a little bit, sort of come to his senses a little here and there, a little more here and there, cut back. But now Luka, far more than LeBron, is just jacking up threes at a dangerous pace. Luka is fourth in the NBA in three-point attempts per game. 9.7 attempts per game. He's actually attempting 9.9 a game since he came to the Lakers. Think about that. Fourth in the league in attempts. He's now up to making 35.8% for the season, only because he's been riding a recent crazy hot streak. He's made 24 of his last 53. That's 45.3%. That's sensational. Yet that overall for the year, that 35.8, which was 32 early in his Laker days, 35.8 ranks 105th in the NBA as we speak, 105th. And Luka's career average from three of 34.8 ranks, since he came into the league, 644th. He's just like LeBron. He's actually, by superstar standards, a pathetic three-point shooter. Man, history tells you that Luka Doncic will turn back into a high-volume, way below average three-point jacker. That's just who he's always been. We have a big enough body of work that I will predict to you, better be careful. Luka is a mathematical disaster waiting to happen, a 2 for 10 in a crucial playoff game. Remember his first three Laker games, he went 4 of 24 from three. Remember what happened in last year's NBA Finals? After the Mavs had ridden Luka's hot hand from three through the conference finals, he shot 24% from three against Boston in those 5 finals games. That was 11 for 45. I'm sorry, you just can't trust Luka from three when it really, really matters. That was the logic I used right here on this show when I made my preseason predictions, and I did not even have the Mavericks getting back to the conference finals. I said Luka shoots way too many threes and winds up missing way too many when you can least afford to miss them. That was yet another reason Dallas traded Luka. Do you really think J.J. Redick can pull Luka aside and say, hey, why don't you cool it on shooting threes and focus more on doing what you do the best? You got to score in the lane. You got to get into the teeth of the defense and just tear it to pieces, disrupt it, pick it to pieces. Jason Kidd sure couldn't ask Luka to back off. He may have tried, but it didn't take. He didn't listen. Nobody in Dallas could get Luka to listen. He did what he wanted to do, which is why he's now in Los Angeles. Luka always does whatever he wants to do. He's obviously that great, that impactful, that beloved. The point is, Luka just gets a great kick out of shooting threes. Threes make the crowd ooh and ah. Luka can barely dunk, so he's not going to dunk the crowd into oohs and ahs. Making bomb threes, I'm talking about 40-footers, these trick shots that he loves to attempt. Making those kind of threes gives Luka the opportunity to backpedal up the court, laughing. He loves to laugh. Laughing at his greatness, laughing at the hapless defenders who can't guard him. I am warning you, Laker Nation. Beware Luka from three. Hear me now. Listen to me later. That's it for this episode. Thanks to Tyler Korn for producing, to Ernestine for overseeing, and to Hazel for approving.